All right there, everyone. President Donald Trump threatens to cut off aid and send in the military to stop an approaching massive migrant caravan at the southern border. That is what we'll be talking about on today's video. So I'm sure many of you know by now of a massive migrant caravan that originated from Honduras and is making his way up northward to the southern border of the United States. The caravan is made up of around 4,000 people from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. And of course, their leaders have done virtually nothing whatsoever to stop it. Nothing, that is, until President Donald Trump dropped the hammer, as it were. In just one tweet, President Donald Trump announced that if these nations do not begin taking responsibility immediately for this and stop the caravan before it reaches the United States, he'll issue an immediate stop to all payments and financial aid to these nations, Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, perhaps even Mexico. And more than that, he'll order the United States military to assemble and close our southern border. And it really appears that Trump isn't kidding here. One of the things that you should know that pundits are talking about, it's not very loud. I think it's more almost behind the scenes chatter. But one of the things they're noting about Trump is that he has this renewed bravado. Bill O'Reilly's calling it a very noticeable kind of cockiness about him. I know. More so than normal, right? Something that pundits are noticing, particularly in relation to Trump's recent 60 Minutes interview, where he just basically dismissed Leslie Stahl as just a mere nuisance. It was just amazing the kind of command he demonstrated in that interview. And I think this latest round of tweets fits in with this pattern. Trump is ready to drop the hammer, as it were. He's ready to close this border once and for all, prevent even the thought of these caravans from forming in the future. And one of the theories of why he's just so on of late is because of a recent meeting he had with Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General. And they're surmising that Rosenstein basically told Trump that the Mueller probe and the findings that are going to be released after the midterms, they completely exonerate him. Trump's in the clear with this, and so now he's just dropping the hammer, and he's taking a sledgehammer to Washington, D.C. But anyway, with this in mind, Trump tweeted out that he was going to cut off funds for all Latin American nations that failed to stop this caravan, as well as amass the U.S. military at the southern border. And it is working. It's now being reported that Guatemalan and Honduran police have actually begun sending people back. In fact, as I understand it, Guatemalan police actually arrested one of the organizers of the caravan along with 3 of his associates. Even the Mexican government's been getting involved. They sent about 500 federal police to stop people from entering into Mexico. Now, in many respects, this caravan is coming really at the perfect time with the midterms coming up. Even Trump recognizes. He's blaming the Democrats and their policy of open borders as the primary impetus that's encouraging precisely this kind of behavior on the part of Latin Americans who want to enter into the nation illegally. By the way, speaking of Democrats, did you see the CNN special town hall meeting that they scheduled for Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz's Democratic opponent for the Senate seat in Texas? His real name is Robert Francis, but he goes by Beto to try to exploit Latino votes. CNN is actively attempting to sway Texas voters to vote for good old Beto over Cruz. The mainstream media actually sees him as a future Democratic presidential hopeful. And so they gave him his very own town hall meeting. Fortunately, nobody watches CNN. And one of the members of the audience asked Beto point blank if he supports open borders. And he answered and he said, "No, I do not support open borders." And then he launched into this whole utterly obnoxious story about his kids being raised in a multicultural environment. And he went on and on and on and on. He never once explained precisely what being against open borders means. No wall, no border enforcement, nothing. It was painfully obvious for all to see that this guy's an open border zealot. But like Senator Claire McCaskill in Missouri, he's openly lying about it, right? You all saw that McCaskill was secretly videotaped admitting that she was lying about her liberal politics so she could get elected in Missouri. So this mass migrant caravan is nothing less than a gift to the Republicans because it reminds each and every American which political party is for border enforcement and which one wants open borders so they could get more votes from illegal immigrants, since less and less Americans are actually voting for them anymore. From a political vantage point, Trump couldn't have asked more for this. This illegal immigrant caravan has once again put immigration back on center stage of the political debate. And this is a debate that Trump and the pro-border security Republicans will win over and over again, because it's not just in the United States. It's the recent elections in Hungary and Sweden and Italy and Quebec have all demonstrated the West is absolutely through and done with immigration, period. Both illegal immigration, the kind of mandated migration quotas going on with the European Union. And the reason why Western populations are done with this is because border security has become one of the three main political issues that define what scholars are calling post-security politics. What that means is that the political order around the world is more and more being defined by three forms of insecurities that populations are increasingly anxious about: border security, economic security, and what's called ontological, or perhaps even better, cultural security or identity security. We've talked about this on just dozens of other videos. Because globalization negates borders with its free flow of electronic money and mass immigration, populations naturally feel threatened by the demise of secure borders, particularly in relation to the very, very plausible threats of terrorism. And so studies have shown that whenever borders become an issue of contention, the political right always benefits. The nationalist populist right always comes out on top whenever border security is at issue. The left doesn't really know what to do with border security since they're so married to globalism and identity politics and multiculturalism. But the political right has no problem whatsoever. The nationalist populist right, that is, not the Paul Eddie Munster Ryans of the world that hardly differ from their globalist leftist counterparts. No, the nationalist right always comes out on top whenever border security becomes an issue. We're seeing this in the polls. The polls are bearing this out. Here in the States, Breitbart's reporting that Republicans far and away see immigration as the single most important midterm issue, followed by the economy and jobs. In Europe, it's even more pronounced. There was a recent poll taken by YouGov that asked voters across the continent what was their top two political priorities. What were the top two issues concerning you the most as a voter? And can you guess what the answer was? It was the same in every single state for the exception of one. The two top is immigration and terrorism. The only difference was Italy. Italians said immigration and unemployment. All right, immigration is key. In 2017, Ipsos Mori polls surveyed 18,000 voters in 25 countries. And what they found is that 43% of British, 54% of Hungarians, and 63% of Italians believed that immigration was causing their country to change in ways that they did not like. There is simply no question whatsoever that border security is the single number one political issue in the Western world today. That is why Donald Trump won the presidency. It's why he will win re-election easily. It's also why Paul Ryan and other open border Republicans in the House particularly are so unpopular. Border security promises to remain one of the most important political issues in our time for the indefinite future. And the mass migrant caravan currently moving towards the southern border of the United States just made the issue all the more prominent. 2 weeks before the midterms. Right on time. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Click on our Patreon link below. Become a monthly supporter of this channel and help us to continue to analyze current events in light of conservative trends so that you can personally and professionally flourish. God bless.